This is an introduction to the video I've made comparing resonant frequencies in several guitars, and on my screen here there's an article which has been published by Purdue University in Lafayette, Indiana. You can see, just reading the abstract of the paper, dynamic testing was performed on a pool of guitars in the production facility of a major guitar manufacturer. In this case, it was Taylor Guitars. Sorry, Bob. So the production process is highly automated with the goal of improving quality and reducing build variation. Clearly that's seen as a criticism by some in terms of mojo. That's well, there we are, we could talk all day about that one. However, no objective metric has been used to quantify the difference in the dynamic response of the instruments. We performed dynamic testing on the assembly line to measure the lower resonant frequencies of a pool of instruments. Standard deviations of the first two modes were a few percent of the mean, and the data suggests that a significant percentage of the variation is due to intentional differences in species used for backs and sides. Right, okay. People who are familiar with the acoustics of guitars, that will make sense to, others not. So if I can just sort of paraphrase, when you strike your guitar, what happens first up is it sets a vibration going, and the first resonant frequency, the top of the guitar and the bottom of the guitar, obviously held apart by the sides, start vibrating actually out of phase, and that causes the first resonant frequency, which tends to be where a lot of the low end of the guitar is generated. The second resonance frequency is when they actually start to vibrate in phase, and in between those two frequencies there's a kind of a Helmholtz resonance effect, which is to do with the sound hole in the guitar. So clearly a round sound hole is going to produce a different effect in a Helmholtz sense to F-holes, say, in an arch top. Now, just a quick note on Helmholtz. I've got a couple of articles here just to refer you to. Wikipedia on resonance explained that it's how gas, usually air, acts in a cavity. Obviously the cavity in a hollow body acoustic guitar is such a cavity, and the hole is an opening in then that body, and the air blows up and down. So there is a Helmholtz resonance in guitars, and it's explained here that it's not exactly analogous to that, but you see this article here by University of New South Wales, Sydney, Australia, where it says the air in the body of a guitar acts almost like a Helmholtz resonator. An ocarina is a slightly more complicated example. So the reason it's not is that a true Helmholtz resonator is something that actually has rigid sides or solid sides, like a bottle. I mean, the analogy there is slightly kind of flawed, isn't it? Because I mean, if you look at it's not just the column over the air. Those materials at a molecular level do kind of vibrate. But let's not go there. Right, so that's what we're on about here. And then with the curves that are coming up, I just refer on this article to the result section. These are the curves of the initial frequency response. That's the first frequency response. These are what I'm really looking at here. Is where they've got these tables of the different backs and sides of the guitars which were tested, and the difference in those frequencies. The first natural frequency, you can see here, Madagascar Rosewood is in red, and they had two of those guitars in samples number 17 and number 20, no, sample 18 and sample 20, obviously Madagascar Rosewood, and they had a first natural frequency response of about 101 hertz, and what's that, about 102 hertz. Then you come down here to the Helmholtz frequency response of those same two samples of the Madagascar Rosewood. You're up at 124 and 127, and then if you take Rosewood in the second natural frequency response, your frequencies are then getting up to 180, 181. Now, what's interesting about this to me is the Ovangol. I've never learned how to pronounce it, but Ovangol. The Ovangol. It's an African hardwood, and in these samples 1, 11, 14, 17, 33, you can see that down this end, sample 1 has got the initial frequency response is much lower, the resonance, and the last one is much higher. So in terms of a range, I mean, that could be to do with the size of the body. I mean, these are all Taylor guitars, obviously, with the bolt-on neck, but perhaps it's that Ovangol does display a wider range, and so in terms of consistency of a guitar, I would say you're likely to get more of a variation with that wood. They haven't got any mahogany ones here. Mahogany is very rich and low, and therefore I would expect it to be down this end of the scale. As it happens, I like the sound of the mahogany guitars that I've been hearing, and in some senses, perhaps that's one of the contributing factors. If you can't afford a mahogany Martin, then seek out a cheaper model in mahogany, because it may be that's what appeals to you. So anyway, this article is very informative. It's worth a read if you're interested in this stuff. But I just wanted to do this quick screen capture so that when you compare the curves and you're looking at those frequencies, if you look at the initial strike, and if you look at the oscilloscope readout on the bottom, you can see what happens on the initial strike, and then how the signal then decays from there, and you can see that across the whole spectrum road. So all the other harmonics and whatnot are kicking in, and you can see how some guitars have a really pronounced, a more marked pronouncement in their lower end, in the lower frequencies, how they sustain more, how sometimes they're kind of closer together. I mean, they would get. I think a Bowditch curve or something like that would give you an idea of how distinct the different frequency bands are. When these things, distortion is something, obviously, not many people try to get distortion from their guitars, hence the comment about headroom. Anyway, I think that's all I want to say on this, and it should help with these videos coming up.